unexpected occurred. My dad died and kind of threw my family into a tailspin. My mom was a widow. My brother was in denial. And me, I was 23 years old. I was a part-time grad student. I was a full-time employee at Dick's Sporting Goods, and I had no direction in life. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had no idea who I was. I had no idea where I wanted to be. But I kept asking myself one question. What's the point? Why am I doing this? Why am I struggling? I was empty. I was unfulfilled. As Dr. Seuss might say, I was in a slump, and I was having a hard time unslumping myself. So after some careful consideration, I decided to make a change in my life. Even though my grades were fine, I quit grad school, and I quit working at Dick's, and I started my life in a new direction. And for the next 3 years of my life, I studied at Drew University. I was pursuing my Master of Divinity degree. I was going to be a member of clergy. It was a 3-year program, but the one thing I noticed right away, that most of my classmates were all older than I was. I didn't seem to fit in. I had a lot of second career people in seminary. So I knew I needed to figure a way to either make some friends or socialize a little bit more. And I noticed at Drew University, there was a pub on campus, and they were hiring bartenders. So I put my name in to be a bartender, and I got the gig. And I would work on Saturday nights while I was in seminary. And every Saturday night, this one woman would come in for 1 hour. She'd order one hard cider, and she was friends with the other bartender I worked with. And after a while, that 1 hour on Saturday night became the best hour of my week. This woman was very easy to talk to. We had great conversations. Little did I know that years later we would get reacquainted and we would get married. But at that point in my life, I had other things to focus on. So I went to Drew and I studied for my Master of Divinity degree for 3 years. And I finally graduated magna cum laude. And after I graduated from Drew University, I became the pastor of the Richmondville United Methodist Church. Anyone ever been to Richmondville, New York before? No. Not surprised. Let's put it this way. If West Orange is Wotown, Richmondville, New York is no town. It is the epitome of small town America. For example, most people do their checking at banking at the Wells Fargo. I had a high interest checking account at the Bank of Richmond. My address was 13 Main Street. It went up to 15. It was small town America at its best. And during this time, again, I was the pastor in this church, and I was a big fish in a small puddle, if you will. I was known for giving fiery, passionate sermons on a Sunday morning. I met a lot of wonderful people. And in fact, I saw a lot of great people. I saw a lot of people laugh, saw a lot of people cry. I married people and I buried people. Hold on one second. I'm going to get a napkin real quick, wipe my face real quick. But during that time, in my second year, I had something which changed my life. And it was very subtle, but I will never forget it. It was in the middle of winter, and I was watching a college football game, and I was working on a sermon. It was a Saturday night. And it was snowing outside. And I remember in Richmondville on Main Street, they did a beautiful job of lighting they had the wreaths on the phone poles. And it was so beautiful. And so I turned off the TV, and I turned off the lights, and I closed my eyes, and this is what I heard. And at that moment, I knew I had found what I had been looking for. I had found a sense of peace that I hadn't had in at least 6 years. I found what I needed. And at that point, I realized it was time to leave the ministry. And so on my last day at the Richmondville United Methodist Church, I was given a going away present. They gave me a book. And they said, Pastor Craig, oh, the places you'll go. Oh, the places you go. So I went back down to New Jersey and I found that girl from the bar, and we got married. And we lived in a one-bedroom apartment in Parsippany, New Jersey, and times were tough. Heather was working 2 jobs. I was going to teacher school at night at St. Elizabeth, and I needed a job. So I tried to be a bank teller at Hudson City Savings Bank, but they told me I was overqualified. But they had this management training program that was a year, and they put me into that. And my program at St. Elizabeth was 1 year. This job I had at the bank was 1 year. The only problem was I hated the bank, but the bank loved me. And they kept having me do more and more and more. And it got to the point where I was opening and closing on people's mortgages, their homes, and I hated it. I'm into iambic pentameter. I'm not a numbers guy. And there was a lot of stress involved. And I remember sometimes I would wake up and I hated my job so much and I felt so nauseous. And I didn't want to tell Heather, because she already had enough in her mind. She was doing enough for me already. That before I would go to work, I would actually go into the bathroom. And sometimes I would put 2 fingers down my throat in the hopes that I would vomit and feel better. I never did. But I stuck it out because what's my middle name?
Perseverance.
Damn straight it is, Perseverance. And I finished my program at St. Elizabeth's. The only thing left for me to do was student teaching. And I was in a class of 25 other students. And one by one, all my classmates got placed. Until it was the point where I was the only person who wasn't placed. And I kept waiting and waiting and waiting. And I was told time and time again, we can't find a place for you. We can't find a place for you. And I remember at that time thinking to myself, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? I'm trying to do the best I can do. I know Robert Frost talked about the road less traveled. I wasn't even on a road, man. I was on a path with a machete trying to knock stuff down and figure things out. I was like Lewis and Clark rolled in one, trying to explore and figure my life out. But all I wanted was a chance. And I kept asking, what's wrong with me? And then I finally got a call from someone by the name of Mr. Michael J. Romeo. And he was the language arts supervisor at West Orange High School. And I remember I had a Tuesday interview with him, and I wore my Sunday best. And I wore my Sunday best. And I ended up getting the job. And I remember on the first day of school, I wore a suit again. And I wore my other suit on the second day of school. Do you know why I wear a shirt and tie for the most part every day? Because when I came here, I was so scared that people wouldn't think I knew what I was talking about. I needed to at least look the part. And if people think you know what you're talking about, it covers a lot of blemishes. So in the beginning of that year, that's when Mr. Champagne was born. And I've looked back at my life since then. Some way, somehow, I have gone from being knee-deep in the sea of jockstraps to leaving that job, to going to seminary, to going into the ministry, to working at a bar and bartending, to working at a bank, to getting married, to becoming a homeowner, to being a teacher. I've been at West Orange High School now for 13 years. And I have the good fortune that I've met fantastic students. And when I tell a story, my students do me the honor of listening. I have a job now where I can do something like this. I'm running with scissors! I am running with scissors! I've been running with scissors. And damn, it feels good. It's taken me a long time. But I think I finally figured out the points. First and foremost, I know it's sage advice when you're young and your parents are always looking out for your best interests. But when you're older, I would encourage you to talk to strangers. Some of the most influential people in your life are people you have not encountered yet. Some of the best stories you'll hear are from people you've never met. Some of your best teachers in life are people you've never met. People will come in and out of our life, and it hurts. We lose people, and it hurts. But at the same time, people will also enter into our life, and that makes it wondrous. So meet people. Number 2, I hope you take the chance to love someone or something more than you love yourself. That's a hard thing to do. And last but not least, although I want you to have hopes and dreams, I hope you spend more time living than you do planning. When you meet people and you love and you live, it is by far the best education you can ever give yourself. My life did not turn out as I had planned, but it's better than I ever could have imagined. There will come a time in your life, and maybe it's already happened, when you will ask yourself, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? There is nothing wrong with you. We are all perfectly imperfect. That is what makes us human. That is what makes us beautiful. You are. And there's one last thing I want to stress. Earlier this year, we had Bring Your Child to Work. It's the first year I ever brought my daughter to school. And what they do is they take a picture of all the kids at one time. And you have all these kids who are smiling. And there's this one little girl in the back row who's the only one with her eyes closed. It's a beautiful world. It is a beautiful world, filled with beautiful people. And I worry for your generation because I think your generation needs to believe this now more than anyone before it. It is a beautiful, beautiful world. Don't give in to pessimism. Don't give in to negativity. It's lame, it's cheap, it's easy, it's convenient. It's a beautiful world, filled with beautiful people. Beautiful people right before me now. I love you. I love being your teacher. I love being your friend. I am honored to know you. I am always here for you. And my door is always open. I will miss you very much. I love you. I want to thank you for your time. I'm always here for you. For what I need to do, I want to end this on a positive note. So what I always do, I want to take a class photo together. I want to take a picture with us together because it's 1,000 degrees. Yes, absolutely. I want to get some kid in the hall who doesn't have a pass. I'll have him take a picture. All right? So come on up here for a minute.